Hello, I'm Sharon Wallace, current president of ICWP, and welcome to Center Stage, a program for the International Center for Women Playwrights, a virtual nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting women playwrights around the world. Center Stage celebrates the work of members by showcasing excerpts of their work, followed by an interview where we can hear about their ideals and sometimes their process.
Hello, I'm Jenny Monday, and in this Center Stage, we have Joanna Pickering in an interview about her current production, which is on stage in Paris, France. Joanna is one of ICWP's international members. At our last interview, Joanna was living in the United States. The COVID pandemic provided her with a number of challenges that she rose to and has therefore turned her circumstances into advantages for her work. Hello, Joanna and I talked over Zoom, and we started by discussing her work, Beach Break, which Joanna read from in her previous podcast.
What I've been putting to stage is 3 short plays, and Beach Break is the finale of the trilogy. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. So it kind of fits in with what we talked about.
And with the other 2 plays, are they new, or were you working on those at the same time as Break?
I was working on them around the same time. These are very early plays. They're actually the first plays I wrote in a professional sense, that went through workshops and had actors in New York working on them. One is called Cat and Mouse, and it's quite a controversial piece, and whenever it's performed, it creates intense debate that I think is really important. And it's always fascinating for me to sit back as the writer, and I wanted to create ambiguity that was discussed in a sort of elevated way on a very difficult subject. It's about sexual assault, but really coming at it from both sides and showing the very grey area in sort of date rape situations, which, you know, is a very difficult thing. Fly, and that's about a Hollywood actress, and it addresses ageism. The actress is 60 years old, and she's trying to get a job against ageism in the industry with the use of social media. So it's got some quite interesting themes. And then Beach Break is the final play.
I read the comments on the page, and they're very supportive, but they talk about how it's the topics are quite hard to think about, perhaps. And I just wondered, do you have that space after the performances where you can discuss them, or are these comments from people who've gone away and discussed them?
Whenever I've done a workshop where I've been present, I've always been there for the conversation afterwards. We had opening night last night, and it went really well for an opening night. I mean, obviously, I saw a few technical things we needed to fix, of course, opening night, but the actual work was really impacting, and it had the response I want. I mean, these are not. I mean, I say they're not feel-good plays, but obviously they use humor a lot, because we do use humor in tragic situations. So there's some very comedic moments, and so the audience is really laughing, but also really being impacted in quite shocking ways. And I'm always, when I'm there, I'm always around to speak to afterwards. I don't tend to explain my work, but I'm there to listen and hear the debate, and it does go on. We had a lady came up to me in tears last evening thanking me for the work, and then I've had other times where people have been annoyed, or there's real, because I'm tackling difficult subject matter, quite bravely, especially in these times, to be very honest about human behavior. It can have different reviews. I mean, cat and mouse is fascinating to me, because it's often like male and females have seen a different play. So it's just incredible. And there the debate goes on, what we class as sort of a sexual assault in a date rape situation. It's such a controversial subject, or such a undiscussed subject, because obviously as a female, we can flirt, we can have fun, but no is always no. And it's amazing that putting this play on that explores this, that still some men will be like, oh, you didn't throw us under the bus, or females will be like, oh, thank you for showing that we can still have fun, but this still means no. And it's like they've seen different plays, and that's how the debate keeps going. Like, what was that? Yeah, it's the male and female lens. It exists, in everything we do, but also in how the work is received. So, this is a female playwright. It's female leads, female-driven characters. So even though they're up against the patriarchy, they're very strong. They're also flawed. I like to show that women can be very strong while being vulnerable. I think we talked about that in the last podcast. But it's amazing, that the work still can be received with a male gaze. It's fascinating to me.
Joanna, you wrote a little sort of press release for the ICWP, and you said that you lost your home in New York City in the pandemic. What happened?
Well, it was just one of those pandemic stories that my landlady, who we'd got on with for so long, but when the pandemic hit, she told me that she didn't want I paid my rent. It wasn't even a matter of finance, but she didn't want an artist staying in the home, and she put in a banker. It was just, it was very strange. Well, it was what it was. I think a lot of people went through that. So I had like 4 weeks notice to move out in April, which was when like 1,000 people were dying a day. And we couldn't leave the house. This was April, was it 2020 when it was first hitting, and we were obviously very, very scared, and New York was crazy. People still have sort of post-traumatic stress from the New York thing. But yeah, I was told, my home that I'd rented for 5 years. But, it all worked out because the universe has a bigger plan. And I got a writing residency with the lovely Dan Laurier, who had performed in Beach Break in New York with Bobby Moresco. He's Academy Award-winning director, writer, and he runs a workshop. And I'd met Dan Laurier, and when he found out, he was like, I've got an artist residency, people are staying here, there's another artist, come and write. And I stayed there for a year in the pandemic, just writing nonstop, about 9 hours a day. So it was kind of a miracle, really, but I just didn't know it at the time.
That sounds very intensive, 9 hours a day. How did you cope with that?
There was nothing else to do. It was amazing. We were completely locked down. I was only meant to stay 3 months in Los Angeles. And then, of course, the second wave hit that we weren't expecting so much. And we were locked down again. And there was literally nothing to do but write. And I'd landed in this very fortunate situation of having the writing residency, and when other artists, yes, I did go through losing my home, which was quite traumatic, and lost friends. It was, we all went through such a bad time. But in terms of what it could have also been, a lot of artists had to leave America on their visas. And I was very fortunate to be able to stay in America and keep writing. So writing those 9 hours a day was the dream, no day job. It was absolutely wonderful. I owe all my thanks to the people that have helped me in the pandemic. I got grants from the American Dramatists Guild, the Actors Union, Artist Relief, the Episcopal Artist Union. Did I pronounce that right? Sorry, I'm so tired. Everyone. The effort from all, and the international, you guys, the League of Professional Theatre Women, everyone just came together for theatre artists. It was astounding to me. It was beautiful.
And it would have been a little bit frightening as well, because the pandemic was just raging all over the US, not just
for everyone it was, but it was New York was particularly tough. I don't think people realize how tough unless you were kind of there. It was, my neighbor was brought out on a stretcher dead, and you saw it. Whereas when I went to the West Coast, yes, it was terrifying, and we were all sharing this, great very intense experience, but you didn't see it. It was like this silent threat. But whereas New York, you sort of heard the sirens nonstop, and you saw it and you felt it.
And Joanna, when did you end up leaving America then?
So in July, my friend Iris was having a wedding, and I hadn't seen my family and parents for 2 years, or a year and a half would it have been, and it was just getting a bit much, and we'd been vaccinated. My immigration attorney told me not to leave the country while we didn't have a vaccine and while Trump was president, because obviously Trump was using immigration and the pandemic to sort of block immigration. It was using the pandemic to block immigration. And he just said I wouldn't get in. And then obviously Trump was out, Biden was in, vaccines came. So by July, I was fully vaccinated and the borders were still closed, but I was confident they'd open in September. So I was like, that's it. I have to go and see my family. So I spent a fabulous summer with friends and family, really, really beautiful summer. Catching up with family. And then Biden didn't open the borders in September, as I was so confident he would. And I was like, oh, I can't get back into America. What am I going to do? And Wendy Goldman-Rom, who's hopefully she would like to be my literary agent and me, her, on my TV pilot. She invited me, on this basis to work on the pilot to her writing workshops in Paris. And we started reading some of my plays in a very sort of salon way, like Gertrude Stein-esque salons, and, in Paris. And suddenly I'm living this fabulous life in Paris, and people are reading my work in these small salons. And from that, someone said, we can put these to stage. And I was like, well, I'm locked out of the US, so sure, let's do it. And it was a passion project in the pandemic. We had no finance. But I was like, if actors want to be in my work, I'm not going to stop them. And in this way, it just rolled, and I was introduced to the whole Parisian English theatre community, who are just incredible. I mean, I've been welcomed, supported, looked after, and finance arrived, and we had a space, and then I had all these professional actors that are just amazing, and it just grew and grew and grew. And then Biden finally opened the borders, I think in November, but we were all set to go. So I was like, I'm staying, I'm doing this. So I'm still in Paris, and they say Paris saves everything, and I think it really does.
And what a wonderful place to be! Such a wonderful.
Yeah. I've been so fortunate. I can't really believe it.
And with the plays, then, so you answered one question. I was going to ask if you're performing them in English. What was the process? So did you go into a normal, kind of 3-week rehearsal process? So what happened?
Oh, sorry, I've got the giggles. It's been absolutely insane because I'm a producer. I'm playing a lead actress in 2 of the plays and also the playwright. And I can only thank my wonderful team for making it possible, because it was really impossible up until yesterday, and we opened yesterday. It's the pandemic. We've been having to do COVID tests all the time, just extra things that cost finance. And we just all managed to work together, and we managed to do this in a very short time. So I think we started casting about 5 weeks ago. And I didn't know anyone in Paris when I began this, apart from Wendy, my, the agent. And now it was just incredible. And we worked very intensively. And then I got a rehearsal space offered to me in Paris. So we had somewhere to rehearse. And then we just worked very intensively in rehearsals. And we've brought the work to stage at a very fast time, which I owe to my directors. Chris Mack was just incredible. He, absolutely amazing. Anything I needed, he just got it for me, and he got the work to a place that we could put it up. And then I had Pulcheri Gadma, who just a genius in her creative ideas for Beach Break. I don't want to spoil too much, but we had to have a flood. The play there's a flood coming from the bathroom, and because we're in such a small space and on stage, how do you show a flood? So she had all these sort of bricks like little islands that we had to step on. So she'd like restricted us as actors that we had to balance. We couldn't stand on the stage at any time because the stage was flooded. So that's how she, instead of thinking, oh, bring water, no, we'll elevate the actors off the floor because there's a flood. So while we perform, we have to balance. So it's just been a really wonderful creative process. But yeah, as a producer, I mean, all producers know they'll share that same feeling. It's just been insane. I've been working like 16, 18-hour days. And then, you know, the last week, like, shit, I really need to self-care and relax to perform and swapping hats. But it's just been a wonderful experience. My producer, Koal, just awesome, you know, absolutely awesome. Could not have done it without her.
So I think that audience members often think that acting or even directing must be a bit of a breeze. You know, what a nice, lovely job to do, but it's very, very intensive, isn't it?
I mean, just ask any of my. It's been magical. I think is it Love Actually or Shakespeare? Shakespeare in Love, the film, and the stage manager is like, you know, from an absolute mess it happens and nobody knows how it happens. It is literally magic. It's been exactly like that. 2 days ago, or was it 1 day ago, we were opening and we had a problem with our actual stage set, that the sofa wasn't working. We couldn't move it where it was supposed to go, and it was literally, we couldn't use it. And I'm like, well, that is actually a stage set. It's very minimalistic, so to lose that. And I literally was like, what am I going to do? And I walked past a store just next door to the gallery, and there was just this perfect sofa in the window, like their actual furniture. And I went in, I was like, you're going to have to give me the sofa. And they're like, what are you talking about? And, you know, Paris has just been amazing. They're like, you're doing theatre, it's a pandemic, take the sofa, take the sofa. So there's now a store in Paris with a naked store window because the furniture's in my set. So it's been very like that, putting out fires till the last moment, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it. We've laughed all the way.
It's a very wonderful benevolence by that shop owner. I hope they'll probably get quite a bit of advertising from you. So
or from them.
Goodwill. Joanna, with the play being in English, do you think that you know, you might be able to tour it to other places?
Yes. Would you believe I actually got an email from Sadie Frost, who's in the UK, wanting to chat about the plays. I sent them to her a few weeks ago, and you know, that would put London on the radar. And also, which I can announce, on the back of, because I sold out my dates. We sold out completely. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a very small showcase, but, you know, considering I've never lived or worked in Paris, I was delighted, and a pandemic. So when we sold out, I actually have been offered a theatre in Los Angeles. I'm so tired. Is the Odessa Theatre? Let me check the details. I'll send them to you. And you can maybe put a little caption. But this just came through yesterday that we have a theatre in LA, and the Parisian theatre showcase was for a bigger run next year, which we've been offered as well. So you know, it's already been quite successful.
That's terrific. That's really excellent news. And
thank you.
It means you'll be a bit exhausted for quite some time, but it's delightfully exhausted, isn't it?
I'm like running on being exhausted. It's kind of marvellous. We do nice sort of voice warm-ups with my Koal, my producer's also one of the lead actresses. So we're doing many things, but it's all been part of the journey. And I must tell you, because she probably will listen, and I'd love her to hear that I mentioned it. When I went in to the space, there was beautiful painting, and it was literally, because as I explained, before it was a trilogy, these were 3 single plays. And Beach Break, the artwork had been done for me when it was first, you know, showcased with Primitive Grace Theatre in New York back in 2019 or 18 in the Bridge Theatre in New York, also a very small dark theatre, black box theatre. And we'd had the artwork, and it was obviously a beach break, so sort of like drowning in the waves type thing. And I walked into the space, and there, hanging in their sort of reception area, was this painting. And it was exactly the same. I was like, who is this artist? And her name was Stephanie Gallagher, and I contacted contacted her, and she donated her painting to my show along with the sofa that we got, and it hung in the show last evening, and it looks so wonderful. And so we're going to auction that after the play has its run. And so definitely, if anyone's listening, check out her work. It was awesome. It was just so insane.
And now it will be on the invites and all of the information.
Yeah. I want it to go to a nice home.
Joanna, probably just to finish off, is there something else that you're working on, or is this really taking up all of your time, or have you got any other future plans that you're thinking about as well?
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't be working on this. These are plays I wrote, and the plays have been published with Next Stage Press. So I had to make sure that we budgeted to pay my licensing fee to get my plays, which was like a kind of cool problem, but kind of, it's all part of the journey that's made me smile. But it was literally when they were read in this sort of pandemic sense and people wanted to do them, I was like, yes, of course, let's do them. But no, I had no intention of going back to these plays. I'm working on 2 full plays at the moment. I've just finished my screenplay, Nanking Road, which got the attention of Sony Drama, a lady called Selena Cullens, and hopefully I'm going to meet her in London. And I was like moving forward with screenplays. I just finished a wonderful workshop with Corey Mandel, who was Ridley Scott's writer and does professional TV workshops. So I was really, I'd been in LA. I'd moved from New York to LA in the pandemic and was really switching over to screenwriting, which made my manager at 3 Arts really happy. They're like really big agency or management agency, production company for like film, TV. And then, of course, yet again, Joanna sends them an email saying, I'm doing plays in Paris. But yeah, no, I'm sort of swinging over to screenplay writing as well as plays at the moment.
Well, I think from the ICWP point of view, we're very pleased that your plays are having so much success.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, but I keep emailing my manager, and they're so supportive, but they just don't do plays in that sense. But yeah,
there's a smaller audience for plays, but it's such an intimate thing to be involved in, isn't it?
Oh, it's wonderful. And just having the audience last night and seeing people back in theatre. I went to my first theatre performance in Avignon, summer Avignon Theatre Festival, and it's the first time I've been, and oh my God, it was amazing. I went with my friend Iris and her family, and we went to see our first theatre show, and it was pieces of a woman, and it was just amazing production. And then to be in a theatre for the first time, I came out and I just cried. It was so wonderful. So that was my first experience of theatre after the pandemic, and then my second is actually being back on stage and my own work in Paris. So I'm a little emotional about it all, which I'm sure we all are as playwrights after, theatre just really obviously went down, and we didn't know at one point if it would ever come back.
Thanks to Joanna Pickering for meeting with me via Zoom. She spoke to me at the end of 2021, the morning after her opening night in Paris, France. Joanna is one of our international members. Thanks for listening in to Centre Stage. There'll be more coming soon.